some statements that the police have picked them over. We'll bring you some of the details around that. And of course, we know that the domestic debt issue still remains a topic that most people want to know how it will pan out. We've seen pensioners picketing at the Finance Ministry for the past 3 days, saying that they do not intend to sign on to that agreement, and they want the Finance Minister to exempt them. We also have a very sad story this week, started developing on Monday, where our very own Christian Achu, one of the Black Stars players, stuck underneath a rubble in Turkey following an earthquake there. Unfortunately, as we speak, he's still not been found. We'll look into that story as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back and tell you how the big news outlets captured those 3 stories. So we'll start with the ministerial changes in matters arising, and let's see how various media outlets captured that story this week. Let me start with the Daily Graphic. They said President makes ministerial changes, 4 new nominees, 2 elevated, 1 reshuffled. The Ghanaian Times also said President names new minister Katie Hammond for Trade, Brian Echampo for Agric, Asabi replaces Chieftaincy Minister. The Chronicle said Akufo-Addo reshuffles cabinet. The New Crusading Guide says Akufo-Addo breathes new life into government. Dr. Brian Echampo, Dr. Stephen Boateng, Katie Hammond now on board. Let's go to the New Publisher. 5 grab ministries, 1 deputy reshuffled. The Custodian says Obi Amwa and Amin Adam elevated. Katie Hammond, Brian join cabinet. The Republic Press reported it this way. It's Brian for Agric as Katie grabs trade. City Newsroom says NDC executive in essay slams Akufo-Addo over new ministerial appointments. Obviously, the matters arising following that announcement there. Still on reactions over the changes, City Newsroom has a story which said recent ministerial changes insensitive will increase government expenditure. This is an NDC MP speaking. City Newsroom again says Akufo-Addo's failure to reshuffle his ministers quite disappointing. This is Jampo, a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, on his reaction to the changes we saw with regards to the ministerial positions. Let's move away from that story and take you to the domestic debt exchange program and matters arising from that story for this week. We start with the Finder because this is how they captured their story on that. They say bondholders granted final opportunity as government opens 3-day administrative window for DDEP. The Daybreak captured it this way. DDE data bank begs for clients' school fees. And then City Newsroom says pensioner bondholders return to Finance Ministry to picket over DDEP. City Newsroom again, don't sack students for non-payment of fees. Data bank begs schools. City Newsroom again, downsize government, cut spending to save economy. GPCC to Akufo-Addo. That's still on the reactions on the domestic debt exchange program. Then let's go to the third story that's made headlines this week to do with the Swame youth organizer of the NDC being picked up over some comments he made. The Chronicle says NDC warmongering surrenders to police. The New Crusading Guide says NPP condemns NDC's violence agenda, demands prosecution of Swame youth organizer. The Anchor captured it this way. We have capacity to respond to police violence. This is NDC's Opari Addo bragging there, according to the paper. The Informer says 2024 general elections, NDC plots violence, youth organizer alleges. City Newsroom says Asokwa Court remands Swame constituency NDC youth organizer. City Newsroom again, NDC supporters besiege court in solidarity with Swame youth organizer. And then finally on that story from City Newsroom again, it says NDC Swame youth organizer must be prosecuted, expelled. NPP demands. Let's move to the final story. Still making news this week to do with the earthquake in Turkey and the whereabouts of Christian Achu. The Daily Graphic reported it this way, says Turkey earthquake, Achu's whereabouts unknown. Ghanaian Times says Achu still missing after earthquake. That's the question there. City Newsroom, Turkey earthquake, thermal camera confirms more people trapped near Achu's residence. City Newsroom again says UK sends life-saving support to earthquake-hit Turkey and Syria. And finally on that story, and still with the City Newsroom, it says we don't know which hospital Christian Achu is receiving treatment. This is Ghana's Turkey Ambassador Francisca Odunto Ashite over there. So that's some of the stories, how it was captured this week by various media outlets. 4 stories in all. One to do with the changes with ministers, the second one to do with the domestic debt exchange program, the third to do with some assertions by an NDC executive, which has led to the police picking it up. As we speak, he's still being remanded. And finally, to the sad story to do with Christian Achu. To join me to discuss these topics today, I have with me Samuel Otamensa with City FM and City TV. Welcome.
Thank you.
Then I have Richard Sky also with City FM and City TV. Richard, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I think it's okay to start with the ministerial changes. I see some newspapers capturing it as a reshuffle. I'm not sure it's a reshuffle, but of course we have one name there that was changed, so maybe that's from the angle they are coming from. But Samens, your initial thoughts on the names you were seeing: Brian Achampo going to the Greek ministry, Katie Amond to the Trade Ministry, and of course we have Asabi, who we've not seen in a while in the ministerial position, returning to government proper. Exciting new people that will bring some vavavoom to the government. A lot of people want a reshuffle. These were replacement, but let's start with the issue of the replacement. Will these new gentlemen that we're seeing coming in bring some kick to the government to push it to attain, you know, what it seeks to do?
Well, I don't know how governments work. so it will be difficult to hit it right on the head. However, what I want to say is, if all it takes to get to succeed in these roles is the energy and the capabilities of the persons who have been nominated, then we have no doubt that these persons possess some appreciable degree of a track record to get work done. I mean, if you name each one of them, is not just a talker, as a doer. And again, each one of them has had the opportunity to exhibit this at different points of their lives. So if you ask, am I hopeful for these persons, I'll say yes. You know, but politics is not consulting. It's not a consultancy business. Other things control the process, apart from reasoning. Yeah. So for me, I can only wish them well. And again, let me restate, given their backgrounds, all these persons are people who are quick at execution. Okay. And so if that's what it takes, then I will hope that something good will happen out of it.
Okay. Also positive about these names and the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, these are, as Samen said, very competent people in their own right. Each and every one of them, given what they have achieved in their private lives before getting into politics, and then also their track record thus far in public office. We will come to the specific individuals. So I'm really hopeful that they would have a positive impact on the performance of the Nana-Addo government, except to say that 2 years is so much of a little time.
Yeah, to really show what
to really have the kind of desired impact that you would expect. But again, it's government policy. If government is purpose, we saw what Henry Korche was able to do with the Greater Accra region over a 2-year period, or even 1-year period. So, if they are purpose to really bring about change and transformation, one would bet that they will do a profound job in government before the Nana-Addo government comes to a close.
Let's look at Katie Hammond. When the Nana-Addo administration commenced, everybody was expecting that he would get a position, specifically energy. That didn't happen. 2 years to end the government. We see him being put at trade and industry. Would he make a mark there?
Okay, so my understanding of what the background or the behind-the-scenes news is that he was initially offered the position of Minister for Energy. He was not interested, or so I hear.
Why not? Is it because the challenges there?
First of all, I mean, his relationship with the president had strained as a result of the apparent snub that we saw in the first term of the
delay is not a denial, is it?
Well, I mean, it's a question of how you look at it, because Katie Hammond virtually was the arrowhead for the NPP. Then in opposition, he was the minority spokesperson on energy, and he gave the Mahama administration, and in fact the Mills administration before it, absolute hell. It did not matter that he had great relationship with Kobna Donko. When Doomsaw was a huge problem in this country, he was the man to go to, and he was forthright with the facts as they were, dealing with the government and its inability to deal with the problems. And to a large extent, you can credit his performance, together with many others, for how the NPP was able to resoundingly win the 2016 elections and came to power in 2017. And given his own history and some of the things he is said to have done behind the scenes, for the MPP to win power, one would expect that naturally for someone, a high-profile personality who served for so many years, at least, I think it must have been for 6 to 7 years under the Kufuor administration as deputy minister, before eventually moving to the Interior Ministry as a deputy minister towards the end of the Kufuor government. One would have expected that if a new government was formed by his party, the first 3 ministers of President Nana Akufo-Addo ought to have been, at least Katie Hammond ought to have been.
Do we know why he wasn't considered?
Well, I mean, from deep throat sources who are close to the situation, we hear that, as usual with politics, all kinds of things were said to the president about him. Allegations had been made about all kinds of things, and for some reason, the president thought that it wasn't proper to get him involved in his government. What I hear is that when he was invited to join government, he initially snubbed. He wasn't interested. Somehow they got him to the United Kingdom when the president recently visited the UK, and there was a making up. Apologies reportedly rendered, and ultimately the two gentlemen understood each other, and also given pressure we hear mounting from his constituency, the Ahmadi group, and some other quarters. Is it quarters or whatever? Okay, quarters. Oh, okay. A decision was made that, well, it is patriotic, it is gentlemanly, it is in the best interest of the NPP.
So he picked trade, or he?
No. So the backstory is that he said he wasn't interested in energy because Matthew Opoku Prempeh, a person who is thought to have a great relationship with him, and who he sometimes refers to as his nephew, because of the nature of their relationship, my understanding is that he didn't think that it was a good idea to take his job, because the news on the corridors of power was that they wanted to remove Matthew Opoku Prempeh from that office. Of course, we hear that some big boys got involved to insist that Loki should not be moved. It was subsequently advertised within the circles of power that he was going to be moved to trade. But what we hear is that he was not happy about that movement. So the Honorable Katie Hammond, I am told, took the view that if you want to remove him from that office, I am not interested in the job.
Okay.
If he moves on willingly,
That's fine.
that's fine. And I'm told that there was some conversation between the two men, and ultimately the Honorable Katie Hammond decided that, look, I'm not going to take this. I would go with trade, although it is not exactly my area of competence.
So 2 years to the government exiting. I mean, if they win the elections, they stay. But within this period, there's been a lot of challenges with the economy. People are expecting so much. And there'll definitely be some pressure on him to perform, to continue the works of whoever was there before, which is Alan Tramantin. Somebody that we know that was very good with energy matters, going into that role. Of course, we know the ministerial work comes with a lot of, not necessarily having the background to particular, sectors that you're going to. But would it make a mark and leave the scene clean, for want of a better word?
Well, I mean, before his foray into politics.
Sometimes I'll ask you the same question.
Before his foray into politics, Honorable Katie Hammond was a lawyer, doing so well in the UK in his own right. And it is not so easy to perform in the UK as a lawyer. And he distinguished himself in that particular space. So one would expect that a lawyer of his caliber, qualified both here in Ghana and in the UK, should be able to apply himself to whatever position he finds himself in. And of course, I mean, many of the energy sector issues you deal with also have some element of trade in there, and then also international business transactions in that sense. So I do not believe that he will be overwhelmed by what will be sitting there for him as the Minister for Trade. Of course, there are high-profile issues like the AFTA, for instance, which we Africans believe will turn around the economy of this continent. One would expect that with him now in the chair, if eventually he gets the passing of Parliament, he would lead that campaign vigorously so that we can realize the full benefits of the AFTA. Of course, there are also thorny issues like Nigerians receiving a lot of flags in Ghana and all of that. And listening to the news, it would seem that that's one of the main issues of the folks who are in the trading space in Ghana. So it will take a lot of effort, and I have no doubt with his links, I understand, in Nigeria, in the high echelons of power, I believe that he will do something about it. And also, I mean, trade with Turkey. Last year, we were, even between last year and the year before, they did, Ghana and Turkey did close to about $800 million US dollars. So that is a huge trading block for us. And of course, with his background as a Muslim, and then also his links to Turkey, as I understand it, he should bring about some economic benefits for the good people.
So it's one district, one factory, one dam, one something. All these things hanging. I mean, and these were some campaign messages that the president at the time campaigned on, for the business community to want to come on board his ideas and all that. Those are hanging. After we've still not made the best out of it, we still have challenges with the Nigerian traders and all that. A huge tax for him, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Can he do
Is that all you were saying for myself? Okay,
so he's warming up to.
Anyway, so I'm not so sure about all the postulates that Richard has laid down regarding what was offered and who rejected what. I am not so sure about that. And then the issue of somebody having to go and apologize, I am not so sure about that.
What are you sure about?
I just say I'm not so sure. I mean, I'm not so sure about somebody like the president apologizing to Katie Hammond. These are political language, and I don't think that's how it happens, because knowing who Katie Hammond is, if he doesn't want to do it, he has no business. He doesn't fear tell you that he won't do it. You get me? And he will have 1,001 reasons why he won't do it. But again, talking about trade, three things come to mind. First is technical competence. Which technical competence comes over time. Second, leadership. And then third is diplomacy. Now, if I look at Katie Hammond, he ticks the first box. Okay, technical competence over years. I mean, he's been a corporate lawyer, he's been all the kind of lawyers you people talk about. So, in terms at the policy level, he looks like somebody who can capture the whole processing of trade policy. Okay, leadership, he's an upright decision maker. So, I will take it. I'm not so sure about the diplomacy bits of trade, leading the trade function. And again, I'm not saying that he's the wrong person. I'm saying I'm not so sure about the diplomacy bit.
Why not? Is it the way
I don't have much information to make a proper judgment. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Given the way he interfaces with the public and Parliament, I am not so sure.
Okay.
So, but can he do it? Yes. Capability-wise, yes. Availability, yes. But whether the system will complement his efforts, we are yet to see. And that's how I look at it.
Okay. All right.
Let me just plug in quickly on the third bit. I mean, you see, one would have expected, naturally, that a person of that size and caliber, if he was not offered a position in government, he will be rebellious, create problems for the government from the back benches or from the middle benches, and give the government a sleepless night. But, I mean, watching him over the last 7 years, it would seem to me that he showed a certain level of maturity, which is rare these days in politics. If you ask the people in Parliament, they will tell you that when it comes down to the crunch and people of wisdom are needed to get things done without engaging in the acrimony that undermines, cooperation in Parliament, he would be among the first three or so in Parliament.
Isn't it because he's an experienced politician and he understands the
and
game?
he commands a lot of respect,
Over
although
time.
he might seem to people outside to be a bit abrasive in how he responds to matters and all of that. But if you speak to people who are close to the central power in Parliament, his relationship and how he's able to get things done should tell anybody who observes him and the situation in Parliament that there's a certain skill he has in the area of diplomacy that should be able to help him survive in
Well, he will know. I won't.
I mean,
You see, the whole thing, they open up the discussion and then, negotiations will go on depending on your stature in the whole system, and then you end up with something. Having said that, I do not think that Trade Ministry is any less important than Energy Ministry. You understand?
Yes.
So it's just, if you like, something that sounds like an injury type inclusion. But then again, in politics, one day can make a huge difference. One day can make a huge difference. And if he's willing to do it, I think that he can make some impact if the system will allow him to.
Okay. Quick one on the names. I think we'll do that name, and then we'll look at the question of whether it's time for the reshuffle, because people are like, okay, these are just replacements because people resigned.
In the gaps.
Yes. And people are really looking for the reshuffle, and then also the cutting down of the government numbers. But the name that I want us to quickly go over, because interesting position he's been given, agriculture, Brian Champo. A good fit.
Well, Brian's, background is one that is strongly witnessed in the area of security. Previously, he served with the U.S. Army, retired and eventually came to Ghana, was very much close to the former national chairman of the NPP, Jaco Tankau-Betty Bilamte. Got very much interested in the tech space, owns huge businesses in that particular space. And, you remember the bloody battle in the Suhum constituency with Freddie Kopariansa, which eventually led to all kinds of things in the eastern region as a result of that battle to take the NPP's ticket in that constituency. Eventually, he left the constituency and went elsewhere within the, what do you call it, the Kwewu or the Kwewu enclave. Yeah. And today he's a member of parliament. Yeah. Previously he served as a minister of state in the interior ministry and also national security. But you see, he was not immediately named a minister in this
administration.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, that came with its own problems. Recently, the claim has been made that he sits among the folks who led the campaign for the removal or the campaign to have Ken Ofori-Atta removed as Minister for Finance. And some people say that, you know, that was because of certain business dealings that, you know, that would have been targeted, but for, you know, some, you know, moves that may have been made by him and people close to him. So when you listen to people within the MPP, especially those in Parliament, the suggestion is made that there is an attempt to retain Ken Ofori-Atta as Minister for Finance, regardless of whatever promise that the president may or may not have made to the 93 rebels who went to see him at the presidency and said they wanted Ken out. And the way to do that is to neutralize the arrowhead of the campaign, who is alleged, and let me repeat.
Well, was he part of the 93 who went to visit?
The allegation is that he may have been one of the people who
pushed
like,
the whole
you know,
thing,
orchestrated the thing. So the suggestion is made by those close to the situation that this is sort of a trade-off. I'll call off my boys, and then you know, you give me space in government. That's the claim that is made. Of course, they will not come and, you know, confirm or deny it, but that is the claim that is out there. So I would not be surprised if he's vetted, approved, becomes the minister in the government, and Ken Ofori-Atta, contrary to the promises of the president that he would take a second look at the matter when he finishes with IMF and all of that, he is retained as Minister for Finance.
Something you want to add on before we go on the break? On Brian?
You want to hear my view or you want you know, I must apologize for this, but you know, Sky is he is knee deep into this parliamentary mechanics. I am not. Having said that, I can tell you that you don't need to have an agricultural science background to lead the agric ministry. Nothing so-called. Because see, the agric ministry is one ministry that never lacks professionals. You know, so it's structured with professionals. And the institutions that support the agric ministry, Cocoa Board, the Agric Research Institute,
CSI, all those things.
You know, all these ones are full of professionals. And I believe what is really required is strong leadership. Question, does Brian possess that? I haven't worked with him before, but given his background and the track record of the things that he has been able to do as a private businessman, I would give him that. I'll give him that, no two ways about that. And if you speak with Brian, his ability to make decisions and make things happen is something you would envy. So I don't have a problem with that. But all the caveats that I always bring is whether the system will allow him.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the issue of reshuffling and then the number of size we have for the government and move to other matters. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get 2 months of Showmax for the price of one. It's giving double any day. It's giving celebration Ankasa. All that scandal. It's giving the perfect storm. Shishi. More epic thrills and detective vibes. You go feel sa. It's giving what it's supposed to be giving and overdose. So subscribe now to get 2 months for only 16 Ghana cedis 99 pesos for a limited time. It's giving Showmax.
So you're welcome back to what the papers are saying. We're looking at some changes we've seen, gap holders by the president this week. A few interesting names coming in. Katie Hammond, we have Brian Achampo and all that. But the real question is, when will the president do a reshuffle? Over the period, he said he has no intention to do a reshuffle because he feels those who are in charge are doing a great job. There's a lot of things happening with the economy struggling, people on the streets wanting a debt exchange program not to happen, and many, many other things. Guys, is it time to see a real reshuffle? All 2 years is short. We should just leave it to be.
But he's reshuffled his government.
This is not a reshuffle. This is just replacing people. I mean, people left. 2 people, key people left to follow the ambitions to become president.
Yeah, those people
they have to be replaced by the rules, right?
Yeah, they have
so that
replaced.
cannot be a reshuffle.
He could have chosen not to replace them, though.
You cannot keep a trade ministry empty. You cannot keep an agric ministry
Okay, so let me put it this way. You see, the president, per the constitution, could have decided not to appoint anybody to serve as a minister.
And leave it hanging.
Because the ministers essentially perform the roles of the president. You know, they are appendages of the president. You understand? So they sit there at his pleasure. But it is for a good reason that the constitution says that you need to have them so that, you know, you can focus on the major things. They can also focus on the specific areas that you have to focus on. So that is why even a cabinet decision cannot be binding on the president, because he is the boss there. He decides whether or not he thinks it is fit and proper to take the advice. Now, the question is whether the size of this government is too big. Yes. By the history that we've seen traditionally since the Rawlings administration, to Kufuor, down to Mills, Mahama, and then this president. Of course, the previous administration, the previous term was bigger than this one. There's no doubt. The reason is that when he was being criticized in the first term, his response was that, look, I need this number to be able to deliver. Now, the question we should all ask ourselves is whether, you know, 6 years on, the MPP administration has been able to substantially deliver the promise that it made to them. Exactly. So, if you answer in a positive way that indeed the government has been able to, deliver on its promises, then you would argue that the government deserves to have the ministers that it has, the number. But if your view...
So what is your view? Has it been able to deliver to keep this number?
No, I don't think so. I think that, yes, there may be areas that the government has done well, but a large track of the issues have not been dealt with by this government. I mean, corruption is still very much a big issue within the country. A big promise was made about transforming the Greater Accra region into the cleanest city in Africa. That promise is still very much up in the air. Nothing has happened. If anything has happened at all, it's you know, Henry Quartet did some yeoman's job in that space. But look at the phase of the national capital.
So why
unemployment?
We know that
the economy is in shambles.
Yeah, why is the president struggling to cut down?
Well, so that's what I'm saying. That it depends on how you look at it. The president himself responds to you and says that he doesn't think that the ministers are performing badly. Now, people will say that it is because of perhaps he has low expectation of what they should do. But he knows what he expected of them, and perhaps they are doing that. But critics, and I believe that critics are justified to question, you know, the president's assessment of some of the people in his government. Because clearly, I mean, there are many fault lines that would warrant a reshuffle, people being removed from government. But for some reason, it still keeps them. I mean, one of the key areas is the Ministry of Health. A lot of issues have happened there. COVID, you know, vaccines unaccounted for, some done with our parliamentary approval. These are matters which any day, for instance, under the Kufuor administration, would have ended the reign of some ministers. But for some reason, the minister is still at post. You know, so again, the president's own relation, Ken, has come under a lot of fire over the state of the economy. I mean, any country, for instance, when we go to the UK, the Ghanaian UK-born, is it UK-born?
The Exchequer,
yes. I mean, when the economy ran into serious difficulty because of something he had said about, you know, the economy, went to Parliament, presented a budget, made a cut which was to benefit largely, you know, cronies and the rich in the UK, and the government took a hit, he was forced out of government. Weeks later, the Prime Minister followed. So if you look at the state of Ghana's economy presently, I mean, there is every good reason why people would say that the Finance Minister perhaps should not still be in that position. He could be sent to some other ministry if the president so thinks that he can perform in some other ministry. But there are serious issues with the economy as to warrant some movement in that space. But it does seem that that hasn't happened.
So as we wrap up with you,
What's
a cut in government size, a proper reshuffle.
Well, I think the word reshuffle itself is tired. It's been bastardized so much that it's refusing to wake up. I think it's more reworking the structure of government. Because, frankly, if you look at the number of cabinet ministers, we have just an average number compared to other African countries in terms of real cabinet ministers. But cabinet ministers, as we all know, don't form the whole government. Governments, ministries, departments, all these things. And when it comes to all these state institutions, which would now balloon the size, the real size of government, that's where the challenge is. Of all the cuts that we are trying to do in the country, at times I get worried why the president will not see cutting down the numbers as one of the quickest ways to reduce government expenditure. And I think it's one of the low-hanging fruits, and I think the president should be able to do that. I mean, a lot of the state institutions are replicating one another in many ways. And again, if we look at that, we can achieve some efficiency in that. But at times, I worry a bit. The mantra of the president to make Accra the cleanest city in Africa. And I thought that Henry Quartey was leading that charge. And yet, nobody is giving him the necessary support. He looks like the King Kong. He looks like he's the only person who is interested in bringing back, you know, this Accra shine. And it's unfortunate. Something that complements the president's own mantra of making Accra what he thought it could. And what else were you going to use apart from leadership? And I thought, again, Henry was providing the necessary leadership. And to my knowledge, the president was happy with it. But there are other hawks in the system who thought that Henry was becoming too popular, was becoming too influential, you know, and all the things that people talk about. And so what happened to the whole Henry Quartey changing Accra, making Accra great again? And it just stalled like that. And that's a pity. So I guess is what we have.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so we'll wrap up on that. We move to this next story to do with the Swami Constituency Youth Organizer. A video popped up, I think this week on Monday or so, showing the gentleman in question making some statements on, you know, elections. As we speak, the Circuit Court in Asokwa has remanded him. The gentleman is called Razak Wampa Avolia. The court declined the request for a bill by the council for the accused person, and because they insist the matter borders on national security. He was arrested, charged, and detained on Wednesday after party executives turned him over to the police. Now, in that viral video, he urged NDC supporters to unleash mayhem on members of the MPP during the run-up to the 2024 elections. He's due back in court on the 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day. Just by the way. I mean, we still have people making, you know, statements like this when we are still dealing with the last elections where we saw a bit of some violence, people were killed and all that. And it's surprising that we have people supporting such statements.
Okay, so let me issue a caveat. You know, given my new role,
Yes. You say
I
it's in
would be
court
a
and
bit
all that.
yes, I'll be a bit measured in how I deal with what would seem to be a matter now properly within the domain of the courts. But I will make a general comment. I think it's utterly irresponsible for any political party, whether you are in opposition or in government, to support a statement that basically urges one person to direct rage and use offensive weapon against another, all in the name of seeking political power. And we've seen it in this country repeatedly. We do know of what happened in the case of, you know, the Honorable Kennedy Ejapong when, under the Mahama administration, he said something that the government at the time thought was treasonable. Of course, he was charged for treason, and subsequently the government decided that they were not interested in prosecuting the matter. But we saw the support that the NPP as a political party gave to him. And in fact, when he was released from the claws of the police administration, he was, you know, taken like Jesus Christ, you know, people were goading him on to the national headquarters of the party, powder all over him, and people were celebrating him.
Yeah.
Completely irresponsible commentary made by a member of parliament who needs to have known better. And yet, the political party, then in opposition, supported him. Fast forward, we saw with some other people, including, again, another one currently in court, involving a former national chairman of one of the biggest political parties of this country. Then you have a constituency official now accused of doing something like this. Look, without going into the merits of the matter, the position of the law is clear. And with your permission, let me just quote the Criminal Offences Act of 1960, Act 29. If you go to Section 207, it says that offensive conduct conducive to breaches of the peace. Quote, a person who in a public place or at a public meeting uses threatening, abusive, or insulting words or behavior with the intent to provide a breach of the peace, or by which a breach of the peace is likely to be occasioned, commits a misdemeanor. And my understanding is that, you know, some of the charges flowing from this matter, you know, come under the scope of this particular provision. The point I'm making is that if the NDC as a political party is supporting this commentary, we've seen videos of, you know, national officers of the party,
support,
you know, seemingly showing sympathy or support. It's completely irresponsible. No political party in this country or elsewhere should reduce its principles so low as to support a comment that in essence seeks to provoke violence in one shape or form. It is utterly irresponsible, and the people who are doing it should be ashamed of themselves. Political parties must engage in a contest of ideas and principles, and the ones that Ghanaians identify with should be the ones that should prevail at the end of the day. We should not reduce the democracy of this country to a language of insults and a language of attacks.
But why
as to
do we
undermine the peace
usually
of this
see
country.
party officials support such utterances?
I think Samens would.
Why do we usually see that? Is it just...
It's because of Eddie Dija. Abaye. He who cries the loudest or shout the loudest gets noticed. So whether it's good, bad, ugly, the person that shows a certain heated degree of support now gets noticed. So I think what is irresponsible is irresponsible. What the guy did is, I don't know which country would take this thing, but it should be a lesson to all political parties that, you know, when you're in opposition, you become the be all know all. When you're in government, something changes. It was bad when NDC was in government. It's bad now that MPP is in government. So I think again we should let the law take its course in such matters. You know, what were you expecting the leadership of the NDC to do? To go sleep? No. What they are doing is showing solidarity, not because they believe in what
You guys said.
the guy said. They are showing solidarity so they can still energize their base. That's basically my understanding of it. Because what the guy did was wrong, and everybody knows that what he did was wrong. This is a young guy, and I saw someone like Yamin.
Yamin, yeah, just
Okay, Yamin is no more a young guy. He used to be young. He used to be my student. So I know that, you know, he's matured over the years, and he knows what's right, what's wrong. But he also needs to keep a face so you can understand, you know. But as a country, we need to grow beyond this level, you know, because these are the things, these are the seeds that bring destruction to countries, you know. And I was so disappointed with one guy who showed up as a lawyer who was saying that the guy still stands by what he said. And I'm saying that you are a lawyer, first and foremost. So speak like a lawyer. Don't speak like a foot soldier. He stands by what he said. So you, the lawyer, what did you learn in law school? You understand? So these things to agitate people and make people angry so they will make the wrong moves, and it will just take all of us in the wrong direction. If you are there as a lawyer, speak as a lawyer. You get me? Yeah. So, and I don't see the leadership of the new NDC, as I know over the years, I don't see any of them endorsing this kind of talking. How come, as for them, they didn't say it in the 90s and in the 2000s? Which of them said that? From Ben Kumbo to Tobi Kwachi to all these senior, you know, reputable people of high repute that we've known. I mean, this kind of baller language, we should stop from all the political parties, urging people to go and fight those things. By now, 30 years down the line, we should know that fighting for political parties is a totally useless thing. They won't give you FOCO. If you go and you die, only your family will suffer. And you see the big men enjoying, exchanging, they were doing cheers like that. And then you'll be sitting there and watching. So you sit there and say you are fighting for political party.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the last story. Please don't go away.
Is this nanny floor? Yes. What is it with pig feet? No.
Ghana is a country that's full of historical antecedents and rich cultural heritage. What is a rich cultural heritage without soul food? And what is soul food without a touch of ethnicity? And what is ethnicity if it's not from your village? This season of all things Ghanaian is upon us, and we are here to celebrate an aspect of our Ghanaianness with the Patio Village Food Bazaar, happening live from the 25th to the 26th of March 2023 at the forecourt of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Come, let's treat ourselves to delectable, authentic Ghanaian cuisine from the northern, the middle, and the southern zones of the country that reflect our true cultural diversity. While at it, we'll be jamming to genuine Ghanaian music amidst games, competitions, storytelling, and so much more. Interested vendors of indigenous foods are invited to register. Don't let this be another missed opportunity. Call 0205-973-973 to book a stand and be part of the Patio Village Food Bazaar 2023. Anyamime, the country make hot too. So come, let's enjoy some good food, resounding music, heartfelt camaraderie, and remind ourselves why Ghana is still our home at the Patio Village Food Bazaar on the 25th and the 26th of March 2023 at the forecourt of the AMA from 8 a.m. each day. The Patio Village Food Bazaar is powered by City TV with support from City FM and is sponsored by Volte Ghana Limited.
Yeah, welcome back to what the papers are saying. We'll look at two more stories and we'll wrap up. I want us guys to look at the domestic debt exchange program. We've seen this week pensioners picketing at the finance ministry trying to get the government to exempt them from the exchange program. The pictures are just so sad. I mean, they should be listened to. If we've exempted the pension funds, why not the pensioners, individuals?
Yeah, we should exempt them. Oh, that's my answer. My answer is that we should exempt them. Or
Yes, we should.
yeah, so that's it. We should exempt them because, Charlie, you see, my thinking is the government should not position itself as if the domestic debt exchange program is a policy that they crafted and meant to execute since they came into power. This is an IMF conditionality, and you should also find ways to, if you like, stretch the IMF small. That's what I'm saying. I haven't been in that role before, but I also know that if the IMF people have seen empathy before, they will see an 81-year-old whose entire fortunes will be at risk because of this domestic debt exchange program. And somebody who's 81 is given another, 15 years?
5 years,
5 years,
15.
15 years, and you want to give it to a ghost or who? and so if we need to look at the moral elements of this and take a second view of the inclusion of these pensioners, because I mean these guys are going to sit there for a long time, and I don't know how we can ignore them. I don't know how. And look, the saddest part is the ones you see there, 40, 50 of them, are just a minute fraction of the whole population of these persons. A major part of them are in their sick beds. They are actually in their sick beds. And so if you consider that kind of situation, all we need to do is, maybe technically, by the nature of the structure of our financial system, maybe, yes, you want to go ahead and do that with them. But morally, there are questions, if we don't deal with today, it will haunt everyone in the decision-making position until you visit your grave. I'm telling you. If they don't deal with this pensioners issue well, those in charge, the decision, if they get it wrong, it will haunt them till they visit their graves.
Wow. Getting
Not all the elderly people are talking. In Ghana, we say, "Onupane dale efe ukonfo." To wait. Somebody who is aged is even more than a fetish priest.
Oh, that's a deep one. That's a deep one.
Really?
I think sometimes I
Yeah,
it is regrettable seeing those photographs and moving pictures, and for some reason nobody is stepping out there to talk to them and to provide some comfort and some assurances. They are not the reason we're here. So I think it's a good reminder that Siemens has given them. If they don't know, they are also getting old or will be there soon. I think something has got to be done. They deserve to be listened to and some decision made in that respect. We can't take away their joy. People are on dialysis. People are struggling to pay medical bills. People are struggling to pay for their medicines. These are old people who are waiting to visit the next world. Go and join the majority. I think they should be treated
Pascal,
with some dignity.
the funny thing, when I see people, cutting themselves, killing themselves because of politicians, and I'm asking, if you look at the number of pensioners looking at, sorting this debt exchange thing, Do you see any old politician in there?
Oh.
And then you go and they're fighting for politicians. Oh, I've been here, Momo, baby.
So cool.
So cool. You see the people, ex-servicemen, ex-civil servants,
Well,
business,
companies, private firms.
Yeah. You don't see ex-politicians there. They are sitting there and pressing remote button. When they see that, they will change so that they don't feel bad.
Feel
They
bad.
will change to Mnet too, so that they don't see the pictures and feel bad. But your guilt will chase you to your grave. These politicians.
Our very own Christian Achu stuck under the rubble. 30 seconds.
Oh, it's a distressing news, and I've not been myself since this whole thing started. And then also we got some comfort from the news that he had been found. Yeah. And now we're having conflicting signals as to what exactly may or may not have happened. We can only pray that the Lord God will listen to our prayer wherever he is found alive, and properly constituted again to be able to do what he's been doing for the widows of this world, the orphans of this world, the prisoners of this world, the ex-servicemen of this world. Achu has been a pillar for many families. And if there is anything at all that God would have to look upon and say, oh, as for this one, dear, let me use this to bless you again with 50 more years or 70 more years or 100 more years, God should do that. We hope that he listens to our prayer.
We can only pray. Oh, this is too sad, man. It's way too sad. Way, way too sad. Given that there are still some people who are still alive under the rubbles. But it offers very little hope, I must say. What we fail to recognize as winter is in the heart of winter.
Cold.
And it's winter cold. And I mean, it's been how many days now?
4 days.
4 days.
Yeah, Monday.
And that's 81 hours, 82 by now, almost 90 hours after. I mean, we won't give up yet. We just pray that he's rescued alive.
And our condolences to those who've lost loved ones, and then also our sympathies extended to the government of Turkey. And Syria.
All right, guys, I have to wrap up on this rather sad note. Thank you guys for watching. I've been here with Samuel Atamins as well as Richard Sky. My name is Vivian Kylok. We hope next week when we return, there'll be better news in terms of Mr. Achu, yes, as well as the pensioners, something better for all of us. But thank you. Goodbye.